operate in truth, right? Operate in truth. Tell the truth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gator Truth. My name is Daniel, and on this episode, we're going to focus on the Gators' 23-21 thrilling victory over the Mississippi State Bulldogs. If you don't know by now, the big news coming out of the weekend, though, is head coach Billy Napier has been relieved of his duties as head coach for the Florida football program. To be honest, I want to get some thoughts and stats and everything together to really discuss that in detail. So probably on YouTube, we'll have a video on that later on this week. With that said, it was a very Billy Napier-like game to finish him off, to finish his time off as head coach of the Florida Gators. And just lots of happiness mixed with frustration, mixed with just walking off, as myself and others have said. And I had put it on X on the podcast page, and that was the Gators' first game under Billy Napier. Utah gets in a position where they can win the game, and they throw a pick. And then Billy Napier's last game with the Gators, Mississippi State's in a position they could win and throw a pick. Both situations were situations that the team had success in running. Not sure why they put the ball in the air. It was shocking. But hey, like I've said plenty, you take what you can get. You take the wins you can get. And boy, I will take this one. I really do think this does set up Florida to potentially at least get to a bowl. We've talked about in previous episodes how guys like Tyreek Sapp, Austin Barber, Jake Slaughter, fifth-year players, I don't want them to have 4, losing seasons in 5 years. I would love for them at this point to go out, win 3 more games, make a bowl, and and win a bowl game, to send them out as winners. Obviously, the worst record for fifth-year seniors in the modern history of Florida football. And I don't think it's on them, actually. Those are 3 of our best players, but just the fact that they've gutted it out at Florida, been through some tough times, been through now 2 coaching changes. You got to feel for these guys. And that's another reason why I'm going to just have the Billy Napier stuff in a separate episode, so we can just focus on how this game looked, and then also take a little bit more tact, I guess you could say, with the Billy Napier news. I know that there is some celebration going on X and Facebook and elsewhere. That's not really where I am. Really, and as I said on X, there are a lot of players that are probably in that locker room who wholeheartedly believed in Billy and feel that they let him down. The last thing they probably want to see is everyone just celebrating their coach's demise. Trust me, I get it. But I also, get for the kids, maybe have a little bit of moderation, at least in what you put out there on social media. And so, without further ado, again, Billy Napier's gone. It'll be an interesting rest of the season. Today, this is recorded on Monday. We hear in the press conference that actually Ryan O'Hara, the QB coach who basically was a glorified analyst up until maybe this year when the on-field roles expanded, is going to be calling plays, not Russ Callaway. If Russ Callaway couldn't call plays now, it makes you wonder why he was ever promoted twice to OC, and there's all sorts of questions, but it is what it is. With that said, let's more so focus on the Mississippi State game like I want. We'll try and get through this somewhat quick. As you know, there are plenty of podcasts that go long. and on in Gator Nation. Plenty of good ones, and that's not a knock on them. I mean, I love Gator Nation football podcasts, and their episodes are like an hour and a half, 2 hours. But I try and bring you the bite-sized version of, Gator football for those who may not have the time to listen to some of these longer podcasts and some that put out, long stuff week after week or multiple times a week. With that said, offense, I talked about the keys to the game. Number one is always run the ball. Talked about how Mississippi State had the 100th ranked run defense, and really just give Jaden Baugh the ball and let him carry the team. And boy, 23 carries, 150 yards, 6.5 yards per carry, long of 19 yards in the touchdown. What a stat line. Again, I'd be shocked if Jaden Baugh, if he remains healthy, does not end up a 1,000-yard back. First one, I believe, at Florida since 2012. And Mike Gillisley, someone can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that was our last 1,000-yard back. I don't think P. Ryan got it to 2019, but again, feel free to fact check me. Maybe I'm forgetting something. But the question is, speaking of that, big 3rd down and 1 at the end of the game. You're running the ball all game well. You got Jaden Baugh. You get a 1st down. Game's over. And you call the same rollout to the right. You do a ton. And you get sacked. Why you don't go up against a very poor run defense with a great running back like Jaden Baugh, I don't know. And again, this was the Billy Napier type game. This is the smartest man in the room syndrome that seemed to have permeated a lot of things. But I will say, guy next to me who I was with says, oh, DJ should have thrown it away. And I saw it a few other places. People say, why didn't DJ throw it away? I will give Billy Napier credit in this, and that is Billy Napier, talked about it was smart of DJ to take a sack. And I said this in the stadium to the guy I was with. I said, it's very smart to take a sack there because it forces Mississippi State to use a timeout or lose 40 seconds on the clock, which, by the way, why they didn't take, timeouts before the 2 minutes, I don't know. But hey, Jeff Levy doing Jeff Levy things. I think he's going to be pretty good at Mississippi State. I just don't think he's there yet, and definitely had some questionable calls down the stretch in this one as well. And so Jaden Baugh did do some great things. We did run the ball really well. Just when game's on the line, you take it out of his hands. I don't get it, especially for 1 yard, but is what it is. And it would be a call that cost us the game if Jeff Levy did not decide to see who could be worse at calling the end of a game. And so we did see, in my opinion, improved blocking overall. Now, I'm not going to say it was perfect, but definitely improved blocking from the offensive line, from our tight ends. And some of that, to be honest, is just facing a lower quality opponent than we've faced for the majority of the last few games. I mean, definitely lower quality than A&M, Miami for sure, somewhat LSU, which, by the way, shout out to Vandy for getting me at least one win this weekend. I think I got Vandy, and I think I predicted Georgia to help us out with a win over Ole Miss. And think I was wrong on all three nightcaps for my pick'em. But either way, LSU losing to Vandy does not surprise me. Said in the preseason, I believe that they're a 7-5, 8-4 team, and it wouldn't shock me if they finish 8-4 and would be 7-5 if we had a competent offense. But it is what it is. I did ask for unpredictability in the passing, and we did hit some big plays. I'll say that. DJ did do well at times, 20 for 30, 280 yards. The problem is 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and some of that is we got inside the red zone, and then Jaden Ball, Katie Daniels, both ran for a touchdown. We did see Vernell Brown III get 95 yards, including a long on a nice 50-yard catch. We saw Aiden Mizell get 2 catches for 30, but then he gets injured. And speaking of injuries, we're going to address that when we get to the defense. Dallas Wilson, rather quiet, 2 catches, 24 yards. And some of this was, it just got kind of what we've seen where things get predictable, things get harder to pull off. But again, well, that's it. And then also a few screens that didn't work. I will say Jaden Ball, 2 catches, 21 yards, an 11-yard catch, a 10-yard catch. Some people were upset on the 3rd and a mile where we threw it to Ball. Usually I don't like throwing short and not going for the first down, but I do think there's sometimes you got to have the football IQ and it be situational. And I think DJ checking down to Ball, who was open in the middle of the field to be able to, get the 10, 11 yards that he did, well short of the first down, but it took us from out of field goal range into field goal range. So in that regard, I was really happy to at least see the play that gets us to points after we had moved ourselves back out of field goal range. And then, by the way, 2 50-plus yard field goals while I'm thinking about it from Trey Smack. Got to give him all the credit in the world, especially along a 54. Trey Smack, LIU misses 3 kicks, which tied his total from 2024, and then hasn't missed a kick since, including 2 50-plus yarders for the Gators this week. And without his accuracy, Florida loses this game. I mean, 9 points, 3 field goals. Well, 11 points. 9 major points and 3 field goals. Of course, then again, the 2 extra points really were good. Because without those 2 extra points, it's a 21-21 game. So, Trey Smack, here's to you. Excuse me. Great job. But again, running the ball did well. We did see better blocking. Now, whether that was, due to change in quality of opponent, I don't know. For the most part, our predictability was still there in the passing game. But we got 280 yards, which is not bad at all. Switching to the defense. I said solid run D, and I talked about how Fluff Bothwell over 5 yards per carry. He ended up being out for the game. So wasted a lot of time on Fluff. Insert jokes there. But wasted a lot of time talking about him, and he doesn't play. However, his backup, Brennan Thompson's a receiver. We'll get to that. Davin Booth, or Devon Booth, 22 carries, 105 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Yeah. He was very, very solid on the day and averaging 4.8 yards per carry, which, again, the run D, there are times we were very solid. There are times we shut them down, and there are times that we definitely had issues. And it makes me really wonder, going back to Jeff Levy's call, first off, Chapin gets tackled, 28, 29 seconds left. You had more than enough time to not take that timeout to kind of line it up. You could hand it off to your running back and pretty much center the ball for a game-winning kick. Why you didn't give it to Booth, I don't know. Very questionable decision for Jeff Levy when our run defense had not been, totally solid throughout the game. Allowing 144 rushing yards. Why in that situation you didn't just go and try and get a few more yards, center the ball, use your timeout with like 2 seconds left. Basically, do what USF did and pull off the win. I don't know, but that one definitely cost Mississippi State the game. Good pick by Mekhi Barrow. Definitely a lot of celebration. It was not a game at that point Florida should have won, but that's why you play till the end, because you never know what can happen. I think it was at the start of the fourth quarter, people in the row in front of me, and then we saw it as other people were exiting, or I think when we scored to go up by 2 scores right at the beginning of the fourth, I had an Auburn fan, yes, Auburn, sitting in front of me, and very nice guy, and we're talking football the whole time and SEC stuff. He goes, "Why are there people leaving?" I go, "I have no clue. I don't think they've ever watched a Billy Napier game if they think this game is over." And funny enough, both teams scored, I think, after that. And yeah, the ending came down to the last play. You know, I said against Texas, you don't have to have games come down to a last minute sack when you've been up by multiple scores in the fourth quarter. Well, you don't need a last minute defensive tackle interception to win the game in a situation like this. It's just kind of hilarious, some of the things that went on in this game. But that's a great microcosm. I do want to say the first drive, because we held Mississippi State with 0 points for the longest time until they put up 14 in the fourth quarter. But they scored on their first drive, and then they're scoreless until the fourth quarter. Overall, some bend but don't break, but we did well. And geez, that first drive, Mississippi State coming in, playing multiple quarterbacks, doing things that maybe we weren't fully ready to see, like Kamario Taylor coming in, running the ball from the quarterback position. I don't know. But a great scripted drive from Jeff Levy to come in, get a touchdown the first drive. And then, then our defense kind of did its thing, but they ended up, as we go through, we'll talk about it. Discipline D, Levy can be creative. Overall, I'd say we were disciplined. We gave up some big plays, and that ties into try and force Shapen to beat you. Now, I knew there were some questionable players. By that, I meant we had some injury concerns in the secondary, like Jordan Castell. What I didn't realize until we were in the game is that Castell and McLean re-aggravated injuries during pregame warmups, which just seems, again, like some of the most Billy team stuff ever. It is what it is. Just have to laugh. And so then you see Flowers out there. Then Sharif goes down, and you're like, oh great, who are coming in? Oh, here's Michael Caraway, who we've heard about a little bit. He's coming in. But then we also saw Lagonza Howard come in place of Jordan Castell. We saw Alfonso Allen. Alfonso Allen has not played a snap from what I've seen on Pro Football Focus, who usually keeps snap counts and all this throughout the year. Hold on. Okay, my bad. What I looked at before. Oh, no. Give me 1 second, because I looked at something that showed he had not played, and nothing I'm seeing. Yeah, he played 82 total snaps for the Gators on Saturday. He had not played a snap, and that's what I thought, and then I threw myself off double checking. Alfonso Allen had not played a snap for the Gators all year. It's week 8, comes in and leads the Gators in tackles from the safety position, 15 tackles, 8 solo. Had some good tackles by the line, but for a guy who literally hasn't played at all, and then you have true freshmen like Lagonza Hayward, like Ben Hanks III, you've got them in playing, and there are some other names, Javari Flowers. You get those guys, true freshmen out there, and I'm looking up numbers. You're going to have some mistakes in the secondary, and that's why, I look and I see we gave up passing plays of 47 yards, 48 yards. Why Blake Shapen got 324 yards passing. It's because we had backups at every single position except for one on the defensive backfield outside of, maybe it was the first drive. Because the touchdown that Mississippi State got was where Devin Moore got hurt, or right before it. And I just said the play before, Devin Moore is going to make money in the league as long as he stays healthy, or some version of that to the guy I was with. And right on the next play, it looks like he misses the tackle on the quarterback in the backfield. And I'm like, oh crap, he's hurt. And guy I'm with says, oh no, it's just his pride. I go, no, you don't know Devin Moore, which is unfortunate because Devin Moore, when healthy, is one of the best, if not the best corner in the SEC, in my opinion. And fourth-year starter, but has never played a full year. In fact, I think this year was his longest streak without getting injured. Hopefully it's not too bad. I've not seen an update. But I do want to give kudos because outside that first drive and then a few big plays here and there, I mean, you don't want to see it. But again, you're talking about you're playing a redshirt senior who doesn't play at one safety position, and then true freshman at both corner positions and at the star. Like, I thought overall we did well. And keeping them scoreless from the first drive until the fourth quarter, I think that says a lot. Obviously, there are going to be mistakes, and Levy did get creative. And we, at times, did force Shapen to beat us. And at times, he stepped up. He took a shot, and completed a big ball. And that's going to happen, especially with the inexperience on the backside. With that said, I mean, good job to the defense at the end of the game making him play. I don't think they should have the opportunity to make the play. And what I mean by that, I don't think they should have thrown the ball. I texted friend of the show, Landon, from the My Dogs Are Barking podcast after the game. I said, what was Levy thinking? And he had no clue. I felt bad texting him. But gosh, that honestly cost us the game. But at times, you just got to take advantage of opportunities, and Florida had an opportunity. And good job by Mackay not dropping that pass. It wasn't like it was right in front of him or right to him. He definitely turns and snags out of the air behind him. So kudos to him for great hands. Honestly, won the game for the team. I'm happy that it sent Billy Napier out a winner. Do want to give also a special shout out. Cameron James, 1.5 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss. He's put together a pretty solid year, but he's not a name I hear many people talking about. So I want to make sure I give that shout out. And then finally, we're going to talk about just the team in general. Few penalties. Well, again, as I described in the stadium, Florida has Billy Napier bingo, or did have Billy Napier bingo, where you could just see some things going. Obviously, there are things like timeouts, and we'll get to the penalties in a second. Timeouts coming out of a timeout, or then there's the 2-point conversion. This was a big one We got a penalty lining up for a 2-point conversion, 12 men on the field. And that 12 men on the field, again, or you want to talk about something. That 12 men on the field, Florida could have been 24-21 here and could have lost the game because of this. Because they, instead of going for 2 like they wanted, they come out 12 men, get that 5-yard penalty, end up kicking an extra point. And again, that would be one of the most Billy Napier things we've seen in the Billy Napier era. And I would consider that a special teams flag and a dumb penalty. And it almost cost us. So we failed there. Starting strong, get the crowd into the game. Well, you let Mississippi State go down and score right away. You got a field goal. Took a bit, but then you ended up being up 13-7 at the half. Didn't score in the third quarter. But you got, for the first time since USF, you scored in the fourth quarter. You scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. And that's all you needed to win this game. So, again, kudos to the Gators. Get going. Big special teams play. Did not, I'll go back to what I said about Trace Mack and those 2 50-yard field goals. Those are not easy field goals. Those are massive special teams play. And without them, the Gators do not win this game. So with that said, can't really say, this was the best game I've been to, but I can say it was definitely good to get a win. And it was a roller coaster of an experience. And anytime you get to be in the swamp, we only have 6 of these this year. It's going to be a good day. And for sure, it was a good day this year. Cheering on the Gators, I believe we only have 6 home games next year, as well as we have 5 away games. 1 is Georgia in the SEC, with FSU being on the road. So keeping these home games limited for a few years, though unfortunate, it will allow us to just, focus on what's good. And with that said, I can't wait to see what we have next. And Billy Napier goes out a winner, 23-21. There are optics, and I can get into that later, about, do you fire a coach after a win, which we did. I mean, I would point out Jimbo Fisher was fired after beating Mississippi State 51-10. So this was not quite as big of a win point-wise, style-wise, and it's debatable whether this Mississippi State team is even better than that team was. But I think Texas A&M turned out okay, which is the point. If there are questions on who my list is, we can talk about that on the Billy Napier episode. Again, that'll probably drop this week on YouTube. Brand new life into the season. I can't wait to see what this team does. What we see. Do we see a more explosive offense, or is it just more of the same? And I can't be frustrated if it's just more of the same. We know what this is. But then again, we could see what we've seen at UCLA and other schools, where sometimes that change into an interim just gives a little bit of spark, doing stuff a little bit differently. And in thinking about it, I love that Billy Gonzalez gets the interim tag, a guy who's been here with some winners, a guy who's been here and won a national title as an assistant coach, getting a few games to show what he's worth, whether that helps boost him. I know there are questions in the press conference to a head coaching job somewhere, or maybe that just brings him back, as our wide receiver coach for the next guy. And to be honest, I don't know. And it'll be interesting because this is a guy who keeps coming back. and I'm pulling up a name real quick as I just want to bring it up. Sorry, distracted myself a little bit. And right now, Billy Gonzalez. I almost said Billy Napier. Billy Gonzalez is approaching Dwayne Dixon territory. Some people know that name that hear this. Some people do not. But anyways, Dwayne Dixon coming in. For those that don't know, he is from Gainesville, played at Santa Fe. He played college football for the Gators back in the 80s, 80 to 83. But the big thing I bring him up for is he came and he coached wide receivers for Steve Spurrier, stayed on for Ron Zook, was here for 15-ish seasons. And then since then has been at North Carolina State and been at Ohio for 16 seasons. And the reason why I bring this up is just that's the guy. When I think of Florida football wide receivers, I think of Dwayne Dixon. And now we have Billy Gonzalez hitting that territory, and we have Billy Gonzalez leading this team. It'll be very interesting to see what this does for him. Definitely adding to Gonzalez's legacy for the Gators. And we've got a bye week. We'll see what's on the other side. I'll see a little bit later this week to discuss the coaching turnover. I'll come up with my list, which I'm sure will be controversial, but it is what it is. We've seen some hard times, and now it's time to focus on maybe the light up ahead. Of course, we say that. Every school says that when they make a coaching change or start in a coaching change, and sometimes that light up ahead is the A train. Other times, it's the promised land. We will see, but we'll see together. With that said, thank you all for listening. And as always, go Gators.